Everything that I know about Disney's Snow White and its star Rachel Zegler, it has all been against my own will as a human being. I actively have tried to go out of my way to avoid anything this Lord Farquaad lookalike has said for the past few months, because anytime I gaze upon this upcoming reboot, I'm reminded that Disney really is the place where ideas don't just go to die, but instead now get recycled like the waste it is over and over again until impressionable audiences are forced to eat the slop like the good little boys and girls and they-themers they are by the corporate giant. Disney has understandably ruined a lot of things in my childhood. I haven't watched any of these live-action remakes Disney has made outside of Lady and the Tramp. Mostly because I don't want my childhood memories of when I was less mentally ill and didn't know what depression was yet to be ransacked by modern-day isms and tisms from out-of-touch millionaires who just really want to see me dead. So when I saw that Snow White was getting remade, my first thought was, oh boy, here we go, but then when along with the rest of the world I discovered that Rachel Zegler, the girl who looks like she can't walk properly and is working to figure out how to walk on her own for the first time in her life, like what is she even doing with her arms here, was being cast as none other than Snow White. I rolled my eyes so far back into my head, The Undertaker would be proud. Apparently she's now called Snow White because she survived a snowstorm. This would be like being called a mudslide because you ate too much Taco Bell and lived to tell the tale. Well, this new Snow White has to have a new meaning to her name because the original idea was that she was called that because she had skin as white as snow. And Rachel Zegler is, well, anything but that, clearly. At some point, you need to come to the realization that a lot of what's going on in Hollywood these days is just complete utter nonsense of the highest caliber. Most new movies coming out, I can't even watch, to be honest with you, mostly because nowadays my eyes and brain have been awakened to all of these agendas around me. These days, I don't really see movies from these big studios anymore because all I see is propaganda. Look at the recently released Mickey 17, a movie I will not watch because everyone has told me that it's just Trump derangement syndrome with idiots like Mark Ruffalo in it. Apparently there's even a Trump-like villain who has his followers all wearing hats so he can identify them as supporters. Yeah, I can see what you're doing, Hollywood, again for the 100th time, and no, I'm not buying it. Oh, what's that? Mickey 17 is a $100 million loss for Warner Bros? Oh no, who could have saw that coming? Look, the point here is I'm not really a movie guy these days. I mostly cover video games if you watch this channel. But every now and then I dabble back into movies just to see what the fresh hell is happening over on this sector of the entertainment spectrum. And 9 times out of 10, I get immediately kicked in the throat with some propaganda that I can't believe is still happening in the year of our Lord 2025. So Snow White is going to be a feminist propaganda film. I actually find it somewhat impressive how despite all of the failures, Disney is still doubling down on this sort of nonsense, to be real with you. Because everything I see about Snow White, it just kind of makes me laugh. The fact they didn't even hire real-life midget actors, but instead opted for whatever the hell these things are, yeah, that's definitely a creative decision, alright. Seriously, why are these things CGI when actual dwarf actors exist and would be far more believable on screen? These things look like they're one uncanny valley away from wanting to wear my face like a ski mask if I look at them wrong like the monkey in Nope. But there's more because, of course there is. This is from Daily Mail. Secret data that suggests woke Snow White reboot will flop after star Rachel Zegler's outbursts. According to what these box office analysts are saying, the movie, which has something around like a $300 million budget, or around the equivalent of about 6 times the budget it took to make The Witcher 3 all the way back in 2015 if you can believe it, Snowstorm Survivor and the 7 Serial Killers are set to make around $50 million in its opening box office in Canada and the US combined. Is that good? I hear you not saying because I'm the only one speaking here. No, it's not. In fact, it's actually terrible. This movie pretty much needs to make somewhere in the $700 to $900 million range to even remotely be close to a financial success. But the problem here is that Rachel Zegler is like audience kryptonite to moviegoers. Nobody wants to support this girl who is so evidently full of herself and hates you with every small bone in her body. Dangling arms included. Seriously, who taught this girl how to walk? Actually, Baggage Claim had the best description of this where she said this on Twitter. Rachel Zegler walks like she just got her limbs installed in. I mean, she's not wrong. No, I cannot see it. Oh, so Skinwalker Zegler is gonna tank this movie, which kind of sucks for her career, but I guess like Icarus yeeting himself into the sun, Rachel Zegler is the modern day equivalent, I guess. It probably doesn't help that the Daily Mail reports, as they say here, Snow White star Rachel Zegler is out of control and causing major headaches for Disney ahead of the movie's release, an insider has revealed. A source told Page 6 the company doesn't know what to do with Zegler because of her repeated insistence on airing her progressive views. Yeah, I mean, what the hell are you supposed to do when the star of your movie is a crazy woke liberal lady like this? At this point, if they wheeled Zegler out like Hannibal Lecter with a face mask, it would probably honestly do the film better, because at the very least then she can't talk or voice her opinions to an audience who clearly doesn't care what she thinks about anything. Because let's be real guys, alright, I'm probably gonna piss off some young people here, but I'm 32 years old. My knees crack when I move, and this Rachel chick is 23 years old. To be frank with you, a lot of these younger people, they don't really know much about the world yet. Sure, they know their political talking points that mainstream news gives them or whatever, but when I was 23 compared to now, I was a totally different person. I was brash, arrogant, and I'll be honest, I was a dumbass. Not that I'm still not one, just that my dumbassery these days is more refined, if you will. But back then, it was blunt and evident, and when you give a young person like Rachel here effectively carte blanche access to the world with fame, money, and power, it's pretty obvious it would go straight to her head and cause her to become, well, what is happening right now. As the Daily Mail recites their insiders further, she's an outspoken 20-something and Disney chiefs have called her directly and asked her to tone down her posts. They've called her management, but she won't listen. It's been this way the entire way through filming, but it's the tying of her politics to Snow White that is upsetting, and it's exactly this. These days, especially, we do not care what these actors have to say or think when it comes to their personal beliefs on literally anything. I don't care what Rachel Zegler thinks about the economy or the socio-political landscape of the world. She's a 23-year-old 100-pound girl who hasn't struggled in her life. She has no concept of what it means to be downtrodden or having to work a normal job for minimum wage to make ends meet. I can't even speak correctly. My God, the girl started her career in her mid-teens. You couldn't ask for an easier life if you tried. Most of us had to work jobs we hate to make everything happen in our lives. And Rachel Zegler here, she just kind of pulled the lottery card and immediately believed that she was the chosen one or something, like she's Paul Atreides from Dune. The reality is that the death of the movie star is pretty much already evident because social media has killed all the mystique that was surrounding these terminally out-of-touch people. Before it would be, ooh, I wonder what this actor is like behind the scenes, but now you know how many of these actors are behind the scenes. And the reality is, disappointingly, that they're all morons, all of them. They're genuinely awful people who think there's a billion genders. And everyone who doesn't think like them 100% of the time are Yahtzees who should be shot in the head. Hollywood in general is like a concentrated bubble of terminally out-of-touch people who all in some way either got the golden ticket or knew someone that got them into that same bubble. None of it is organic. For God's sakes, Rachel Zegler got into Hollywood because of Steven Spielberg of all people. She's basically the real-life equivalent of Tom Holland's Spider-Man meeting the real-life Tony Stark. Of course she's going to have access to the best of the best things, when literal billionaires are propping her up to succeed. So the fact that she has still, despite her easy mode life being paved in front of her, manages to muck this movie up so poorly is a testament to how stupid these types are. The actual events that Disney has been holding for Snow White have been carefully calculated and small on purpose, so that they can micromanage every single aspect of this film's release. Here's photos of Rachel Zegler at one of these events, where less than 100 people attended the event to meet her and celebrate the movie, which in terms of big Hollywood releases, this is actually insanely small, and when you compare it to the usual fare of how many people show up for these sorts of things. I should probably also point out these smaller crowds aren't random either. They're carefully selected people by Disney's PR teams, so that they only include people they know personally who won't, hit Rachel with questions that'll cause more controversies. And people like influencers who will bounce on Disney's schlong like a single mom whose rent money is due. The point is, That they know this movie is so cooked they have to genuinely fake their own media events just to ensure that Rachel Zegler doesn't open her mouth and start spewing something genuinely R to the tarded that someone can then clip and then put online. What's weird though is that at these events, Rachel Zegler isn't accompanied by Gal Gadot or Gal Gadot, however you say her name, I don't care, you know, the other star of the film. It's like Gal is trying to distance herself from the movie, and I mean, who can blame her? This sort of release has brand-damaging qualities to it all over. But the internet, like herpes, always remembers. This entire fiasco with this film, by the way, has been going on for something like 3 years now, if you can believe it. It doesn't help that Zegler has been documented saying this in the past too. In another huge blow for the film, Zegler even refused to sing the beloved song "Someday My Prince Will Come" from the 1937 classic, stating that it was weird that the movie focused on Snow White's love story with a guy who literally stalks her. We didn't do that this time. I was scared of the original version. I think I watched it once and never picked it up again. Oh great, so the girl who plays your Snow White hated the original movie that put Disney on the map as a powerhouse, by the way, and thought that the original story was terrible.
He's already dead!
All of this because her mentally ill feminist views are clashing with what the source material is about. Why even make this movie, man? I just feel bad for the director of this film, who is Mark Webb, by the way. That's the guy who did the Amazing Spider-Man movies. He's probably so stressed from this entire movie's production, man. I mean, hopefully once this film releases, Mark Webb just throws his phone into the ocean and just takes a vacation and then sleeps for a year straight. This dude had to reshoot entire segments of this movie because of the propaganda that got inserted into it, not by him, by the way, but by Disney. Then you got this from that Park Place. Rachel Zegler fires back at Snow White fan criticism on social media, touts her role in major box office bomb West Side Story to prove her point. A fan on Instagram would question Rachel, saying why did Disney hire her for Snow White to sing due to her vocal range, and then she would clap back and bring up the fact that she was in West Side Story, another movie that she starred in. While West Side Story may have won Golden Globe awards from all the usual suspects, the film was a box office failure. It grossed $77 million when it was all said and done on a $100 million budget. And once you put in marketing costs, pretty much the people who invested in that movie, they lost their pants on it. Then again, this is the same out-of-touch moron who said this the day that Trump won the election. I find myself speechless in the midst of this, another 4 years of hatred leading us towards a world I do not want to live in. Leading us towards a world that will be hard to raise my daughter in, leading us towards a world that will force her to have a baby she doesn't want. Leading us towards a world that is fearful. Hold up. First of all, this chick isn't even a mother. The hell is she talking about her daughter not having access to a schmishmortion at the schmishmortion clinic? Holy crap, dude, the feminism runs so deep in these people. She's having make-believe Sim 4 moments in her head where her imaginary kid is a daughter, and by the way, not a son, as she said. It would be hilarious, by the way, that if she does one day end up having kids, that they all end up being boys. It would actually be divine justice and also be really funny too. Although, let's be real, she's a Hollywood actor. She would probably just force those boys to become girls, so, you know, that's actually probably what would happen now that I think about it. Damn. But anyway, coming back to this, having weird fantasies where your daughter, who doesn't exist, will not be able to abort your future grandchild because of Trump? Wait, what? Does Rachel know how time works? Even if you had a daughter, you dummy, she wouldn't be old enough to have a kid before Trump's presidency was over anyways.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. And may God have mercy on your soul.
I love how the only gotcha these out-of-touch people have when it comes to all of this is that they can't have schmishmortions anymore. And I can't even say the word, by the way, because YouTube might age restrict this video if I do, but if your only argument as to why the current people in charge suck is that you are now afraid of the responsibility that will come because you enjoy getting filled up like a Krispy Kreme donut every night, you gotta reevaluate your choices there, lady. You don't need to get exploited in every day, you know. Incredible that this is where the plant their feet in the sand moment is. The illegals are getting deported, our borders are getting more safe, but I can't get cream pied every night like I used to. And then tear the baby out of me. This is Trump's America. Oh, sweet Jesus. Like, these people just, they are so out of touch, man. Listen, I know some people can maybe put their beliefs aside when they see something like a movie. Oh, it's just a movie. Doesn't mean that people in it are bad or that they hate me. But in this case, listen to me when I tell you this, that Rachel Zegler genuinely hates you if you think at all differently than her in any way at all. This girl actually hates anyone who voted for Trump, who is a conservative, or anything like that. And I hate bringing politics into this, but there's no way in hell I would ever pay money to watch Rachel Zegler in anything of my own free will and be okay knowing that I paid to see something that she's in. It's not happening. Please, for the love of God, guys, boycott this movie all the way into ruin. Let it die, let it rot, let it become just as obsolete as Rachel Zegler herself. Because if this movie fails, and it is a massive box office bomb, Rachel Zegler will genuinely just become box office poison in the future. And it's very unlikely that she will ever get casted in movies of this level ever again. I know some people will say, oh, she's young, she'll grow up, or oh, it's just a movie. No, vote with your wallets. If you support this, you're actively supporting people who actually would rather you live in their sewage waste, eating their crumbs that they don't want while they go to premieres and eat caviar and drink champagne. I can't say this enough that people like Rachel Zegler genuinely hates anyone who isn't a bleeding heart liberal, and man, it's so obvious. She even said anyone who supports Trump or Elon Musk is an awful human being and that you should abandon X as a platform, simply because Rachel can't be filled to the brim like an empty car begging for gasoline as often as she wants to. Sure, okay, she apologized for this, but let's be real. Do you think she apologized for this willingly? Of course not. Disney strong-armed her into doing this because they know without the conservative audience, their movies will fail and lose hundreds of millions of dollars. I even bet money that the apology that she had for that, she didn't even write it herself. And I mean, who would have thought ignoring and hating over half of America and plenty parts of Canada would not be a good business decision for your movie and making a profit? Do not go see Snow White. I don't care how much you love the original. This is not the movie you remember anyways. Those dwarves originally were supposed to be magical creatures or something with various gender identities before, in case you forgot. And Snow White isn't even named that for the right reason. There's not even a love story. She's just a Katniss Everdeen liberal-infested woke young woman like so many others that all think that Trump is the enemy, despite not being able to come up with any tangible reasons as to why that is. If there was ever a moment in our time as moviegoers to stand firm and just say, hell no, it's right now. Look, I know I cover video games mostly, right? I led a big part of Gamergate to force the gaming industry to change, and I likely costed those publishers millions of dollars in sales by voicing my opinions online. And I'm telling you, it's the same thing with movies or anything else. The only way you're going to get the things you want in the future is by voicing your opinions and refusing to open your wallets. These companies work for you guys. It's not the other way around. They are not obligated to your money. I don't care how much you think they are tied to your childhood or whatever else you may think, it doesn't matter. They're bastardizing and ruining every single property that you love and reimagining all of these movies to make them infinitely worse than what was already available. They're not remaking these stories for any other reason than to bank on cheap nostalgia to rake in easy profits. And oftentimes these remakes, they ruin the very tenets that these movies stand on anyways. F-U-C-K Snow White's remake all the way into oblivion if you ask me. It is not worth defending, supporting, or trying to switch your mind around in some way to make it seem like it's suddenly worth your time when it isn't. Do not give money to people who hate you. It's as simple as that. And despite all of these first wave of reviews for Snow White coming out and being all positive, which, let's be real, that's not surprising considering that Disney orchestrated all the press release moments with their own people, why would you now believe the reviews either? It's simple, guys. If I see Rachel Zegler is in something, I'm out. I'm not supporting anything that this girl is in. She's awful, she hates everybody who isn't her or is in her group, and I really don't want to see Snow White and the 7 CGI freaks in theaters, so screw Rachel Zegler, I'm out. Thank you for watching, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.